When you reach the end of your life, there is a strange stillness that settles inside your chest, a heavy, aching, painful calmness that feels like the world is slowly folding into itself. I felt that stillness on the last morning I opened my eyes. The room was white, sterile, too bright. Machines hummed a rhythm that felt borrowed, like they were breathing for me because my lungs had grown tired of fighting. My heartbeat came through the monitor as slow, uneven beeps. I used to think death would feel like a thunderstorm, loud, dramatic, impossible to ignore. But instead it felt like snow, quiet, icy, softly suffocating. My sister, Elena, sat beside me, her warm fingers wrapped around my cold hand. "You're okay," she whispered. "You're okay, Maria. I'm here." I nodded weakly, though we both knew I wasn't okay. Not really. Every breath I took felt rented. Every movement felt like a negotiation with my own body. But I still hoped. I still wished for one thing. "Has Daniel called?" I asked. Elena's smile faltered, barely noticeably. But to a mother's eyes, even silence has a sound. "No, not yet. But I'm sure he will. He's probably busy with work." Work. That was always the excuse. Daniel had once been my whole world. I had raised him alone, fed him before feeding myself, stayed up during nights of sickness, clapped at every school performance, saved every drawing and every birthday card he ever made me. But the moment he married Emily, our connection began to unwind as if someone slowly pulled the thread from the sweater I spent my life knitting. At first, it was small. "Mom, I'm sorry we can't come this weekend. Emily's tired. Mom, we'll visit next month, I promise. Mom, can we talk later? Emily needs me right now. Later." Next month, soon, time is a thief, and it stole my son from me in pieces. Still, I loved him, more than breath. More than bones, more than anything I ever possessed. So on that morning, my last morning, I stared at my phone on the bedside table, praying for it to light up with his name. It stayed dark, hours passed. Nurses came and went. Elena fed me soup through a spoon I couldn't lift anymore. My heart monitor continued its slow, stubborn tapping. Then the doctor entered. His eyes said everything before his mouth did. "We should call your family," he said softly. "It's time, time." The word echoed through the room, settling on my chest with unbearable weight. Elena's hand tightened around mine. "I'll call him. He'll come," he promised. Yes, Daniel promised. And I believed him, because mothers always believe their children. Elena stepped into the hallway, her voice trembling as she dialed his number. I listened. "Daniel, it's your mother, it's time." A pause, a long pause. Then Elena returned, her face pale with disbelief. He said. "He said what?" I whispered. She swallowed hard, eyes filling with tears she tried to hide. "He said he can't come today. It's Emily's birthday. They have a dinner planned." The room spun. The air thinned. The beeping of the monitor felt distant, distorted. Emily's birthday, my death versus her cake. My final breath versus her candles. My last moment on this earth versus her celebration. I closed my eyes. A single tear escaped, slow and hot, carving a trail down my cold cheek. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even shock. It was disappointment, the kind that rots a mother's heart from the inside. "He said he'll try tomorrow," Elena added softly. Tomorrow, my life did not have a tomorrow. Time slipped through my fingers like sand. Every inhale felt like a struggle, every exhale like surrender. I whispered, "Tell him it's okay," because that is what mothers do. Even when their hearts are breaking, they make the burden lighter for their children. Even when the child doesn't come, even when the child chooses someone else, even when the child forgets who held him when he cried. That night, the nurses dimmed the lights. Elena rested her head on the bed beside me, her hand still wrapped around mine. Outside the window, the world remained painfully alive, cars passing, people laughing, lights glowing in apartment windows. Someone out there was blowing candles. Someone was smiling at a birthday surprise. Someone was celebrating. But not my son, not for me, not even at the edge of my last breath. My chest tightened suddenly. a sharp, stabbing pain that rippled through my ribs. The machine shrieked in alarm. Elena jolted awake, screaming for help. Doctors rushed in. A nurse pressed buttons. Another adjusted tubes. Voices blurred into frantic noise. Her heart rate is dropping. We need to intubate. She's fading. I felt myself drifting. Sinking, falling into a dark, peaceful ocean. I saw Daniel in my mind, his first steps, his first smile, the first time he said "Mama." He was 3 again, holding a toy truck, his cheeks chubby and rosy. That little boy who clung to my leg was the last thing I remembered before the darkness swallowed me whole. I died with his name on my lips. I died still believing, hoping that he would walk through that door. He never did. The next day, the sun was bright, too bright for death. A small gathering stood at my grave, people who loved me enough to be present in the moment my life ended. Daniel was not among them. He was eating leftovers from the birthday dinner, cutting another slice of cake. Laughing, while they lowered me into the earth, flowers were placed over my casket, prayers whispered into the wind. My granddaughter, Lily, clung to Elena's waist, crying for the grandmother who told her bedtime stories and taught her how to braid hair. I was gone, and Daniel was absent. But life has a way of balancing pain with truth, betrayal with justice. Because while he chose to skip my funeral the next day, he would walk into my home with a request that would reveal exactly who he had become. And I, even from beyond the grave, had already taken the last step he never expected. The morning after my funeral, the house felt hollow. The kind of hollow that settles into the walls, into the carpet, into the dust on forgotten shelves. My home had always been warm, noisy, full of the kind of love that didn't need to be spoken to be understood. But now, without me in it, it felt like a museum where every room held the echo of footsteps that would never return. Elena stayed behind after the burial to gather some of my clothes and sort what would later be donated. She moved slowly, as if touching my things was the closest she could get to touching me again. Then, just past noon, the sound of a car screeched into the driveway. Elena froze, a cardigan of mine still in her hands. The gate slammed. Heavy footsteps rushed toward the porch. And then the door yanked open without knocking. Daniel stood in the doorway. He looked nothing like the grieving son he should have been. No flowers, no wilted exhaustion from crying, no puffy eyes, no signs that he had spent the night regretting what he missed. Instead, he looked annoyed, irritated, distracted. His hair was still styled from the night before. He wore a crisp shirt, freshly ironed. His wedding ring gleamed. He didn't even remove his sunglasses. "Where is she?" he demanded. Elena stared at him in disbelief, her grief tightening into something sharp. "She's gone, Daniel," she said quietly. "Yesterday, while you were—" He lifted a hand dismissively. "I know that. I mean, where are her papers? She kept all the important documents in her desk, right?" Her voice turned ice cold. "You came for paperwork. I came because I need to sort things out." He snapped, stepping inside as if the house still belonged to him. "There's the property transfer she promised me, and the bank forms. The lawyer called about some estate stuff, and I need her signature, or at least—" He stopped when he realized the room was too quiet. Lily sat on the couch, clutching a small teddy bear. Her eyes were swollen, red, exhausted from crying. She looked at her uncle as if he were a stranger who had wandered in by mistake. Daniel cleared his throat and forced something that resembled sympathy. "Hey, sweetheart, you holding up?" Lily didn't answer. She just buried her face into the bear. "One, I once stitched a button eye onto myself." Elena stepped forward. "You didn't come yesterday." Daniel rolled his eyes. "Elena, not this again. I told you. Emily would have been furious if I left the birthday dinner." Elena stared at him, as if trying to understand whether he was even human. "Daniel, it was your mother's funeral. And it was my wife's birthday," he said, as if that settled everything. He walked past her, straight to my study, the study he had not stepped into for nearly a year. His eyes scanned the room, landing on the wooden desk I had kept immaculate since the day I assembled it while he was at school. He opened drawers carelessly, rummaging through papers, ignoring the framed photographs of us together. Then he saw it, the envelope, a thick cream-colored envelope with his name handwritten in my shaky script. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel. Asterisk, asterisk, he grabbed it immediately, but before he could tear it open, Elena snatched it from his hands. "Give that back," he barked. "This was left for your asterisk arrival asterisk." She said, "Your mother knew you would come, not for her, not to say goodbye, but for asterisk this asterisk." Daniel stiffened. "She wouldn't judge me like that." Elena's laugh was short, bitter. "She didn't have to judge you, she lived it." He reached for the envelope again. "Give it a no," she snapped, pulling it against her chest. "You don't get to rush in here, step over your mother's death like it's a scheduling inconvenience, and demand anything." He clenched his jaw. "She said she'd help me with the property. She promised. She made a lot of promises," Elena whispered, "most of which you never kept." The tension in the room thickened. Even the air felt heavy, charged with unspoken resentment. Daniel ran a frustrated hand through his hair. "Look, I get it, okay? You're hurt, emotional, but this is important. I need that property transfer, and I need it today." Elena stared at him for a long moment, the kind of stare that peels a person open and reveals the truth inside them. Finally, she said quietly, "You should sit down." Daniel blinked. "Why?" "Because this is the moment your mother prepared for." She held out the envelope. "And you need to read her words exactly where she meant for you to be when you read them." He hesitated. But then he took the envelope with a small tremor in his fingers. For the first time since stepping inside, he looked genuinely unsettled. "Why does this feel like I'm being punished?" he muttered. Elena closed her eyes for a second, regaining strength, then opened them again. "Because," she said softly, "you weren't here to be loved." Daniel swallowed hard. "But you came," she added, voice tightening, "to be rewarded." His face hardened, but he didn't respond. He sat down on the old leather sofa, the same place where he used to cuddle against me while watching cartoons. The same sofa where he sat after his first heartbreak. The same leather creases that still held the imprint of all the years he and I had lived together. Now he sat stiff, distant, a grown man with eyes that had forgotten what love looked like. He slid his finger under the seal of the envelope and opened it. The paper inside unfolded like a memory he didn't deserve, but a truth he needed. He began to read. And that was when everything inside him and his future began to unravel. Daniel sat on the old leather sofa, the same one that had shaped itself around years of our family's life, and for the first time since stepping into the house, he looked unsure. Not grieving, not apologetic, just uncertain, like a man approaching a locked door he once had the key to. The envelope shook slightly in his hands. My handwriting, fragile and crooked from months of trembling fingers, spelled his name. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel. Asterisk, asterisk, it was the last time I would ever write it. He inhaled sharply, as if he could somehow prepare himself, as if bracing himself would soften the blow of what was inside. Elena stood by the wall, arms crossed tightly, watching him like a judge observing a defendant about to receive a verdict he earned himself. After one final hesitation, he unfolded the letter. The room fell silent. He began reading aloud, his voice cracking on the first line. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk, my beloved son. Asterisk, asterisk, the word asterisk, beloved asterisk, hit him unexpectedly. He blinked hard, as if unsure whether he deserved to be called that any more. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. If you are reading this, it means I am no longer in this world, and it means you came after the funeral. Asterisk, asterisk, he swallowed. His jaw tightened, but still he kept reading. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. I wish I could say I am surprised, but I learned long ago that your life no longer had room for me. Asterisk, asterisk, Elena's breath hitched softly. Daniel paused, staring at the page, slowly realizing that this wasn't a love letter. It was a mirror. A mirror he had avoided looking into for years. He forced himself to continue. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. I tried, Daniel. I tried to stay connected. I called, you didn't answer. I invited you, you canceled. I messaged, you replied with one word answers, or sometimes not at all. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel. Fingers curled around the paper until his knuckles turned white. Lily peeked from behind her teddy bear, watching her uncle unravel. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. I never blamed Emily, though it was easier for you to let me think it was about her. But the truth is, the distance between us did not begin with her. It began the day you decided I had served my purpose. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel sucked in a sharp breath. What does that mean? He whispered. Elena didn't answer. The letter did. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. When you were small, you clung to me with both arms. You cried when I left the room. You used to crawl into my bed during storms because you believed I could keep thunder away. Asterisk, asterisk. He pressed the heel of his palm to his eyes, as if the memory stung. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. But as you grew older, you learned that mothers do not thunder. They whisper, they give, they sacrifice quietly, and quiet sacrifices are easy to overlook. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel's breath faltered. He looked up, voice hoarse. This is unfair. She's making me sound. Elena interrupted sharply. She's making you sound honest. He glared at her, but quickly looked back at the letter, almost desperate to see if I had forgiven him somewhere in the lines. He continued reading. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. On the day I died, Elena told me you wouldn't come. She said it was Emily's birthday, and you were afraid of upsetting her. I closed my eyes and told her it's okay. Even though it wasn't, asterisk, asterisk, Daniel's face went pale. He whispered, Mom, but the letter had more to say. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. You were my only child, Daniel, my heart, my years, my every tomorrow. Asterisk, asterisk, his shoulders shook. Not quite sobbing yet, but near breaking. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. I know you think I promised you my property. I know you believe you are entitled to it simply because you share my blood, but love, my son, is not inherited. It is earned. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel. Head snapped up. What? He breathed. She wouldn't. Elena closed her eyes, unable to watch him fall apart and unwilling to look away. Daniel, read on. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. So I made a choice, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of clarity. Asterisk, asterisk. He turned the page with trembling hands. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. I am leaving everything. My house, my savings, my belongings. To Lily. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel froze. The room seemed to stop breathing. His voice cracked. Lily. The little girl hugged her teddy bear tighter, her eyes filling with confusion and sadness. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. She visited me. She loved me without being asked to. She held my hand when it shook. She drew me pictures when my days felt long. She gave me the one thing you stopped giving me your time. Asterisk, asterisk, Daniel stared at the words as if they were flames burning the page. No, this is wrong. This is all wrong. Mom wouldn't do this. Mom loved me. She asterisk promised asterisk. But the letter continued, unmoved by his pleas. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk, Daniel. I know you think what you lost was an inheritance, but what you truly lost was time with me. That is a kind of poverty no amount of money can fix. Asterisk, asterisk, his voice broke completely. A sob burst out of him, sharp, raw, the kind that tears a person open from the inside. He kept reading through tears that blurred the ink. Hash, 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 asterisk, asterisk. If you had come to me before I died, even once with love, I would have left you everything. But you came only after, and not for me. Asterisk, asterisk. He shook his head violently. No, but the final lines were waiting. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk. This is my last lesson to you, my son. People do not remember what you gave them. They remember how you made them feel, and you made me feel forgotten. Asterisk asterisk, a pause in the letter. Then last words, hash 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 asterisk asterisk. Goodbye, my Daniel. I hope one day you learn what truly matters. Asterisk asterisk, the letter slipped from his hands and fluttered onto the floor like a fallen leaf. Daniel buried his face in his palms and sobbed. A child again, grieving not just for his mother, but for every moment he had thrown away. His cries filled the room, the kind of cries that come too late to be useful, too late to heal, too late to matter. Elena kneeled beside him, but her voice was stern, not soft. She gave you everything in life, Daniel, but death makes people honest, and this, she touched the fallen letter gently, is her truth. He didn't respond. He curled into himself, shaking, drowning in regret. A regret he would carry long after the tears dried. A regret that was, in many ways, her final gift, because sometimes the only way a mother can teach her son is through a lesson written in ink, sealed in an envelope, and opened too late. Daniel cried for a long time, not the soft, discreet tears of a man trying to maintain dignity, but the kind of raw, agonizing sobs that came from a wound far deeper than anything physical. It was the sound of a heart finally acknowledging what it had done and what it could never undo. His fingers clawed into his hair. His shoulders shook. The letter lay at his feet, edges crumpled from how desperately he had clung to it, as though squeezing the paper might somehow squeeze me back into his life. But death is the one thing that cannot be negotiated, and Daniel was finally learning that. Elena watched him with a complicated mix of emotions, anger, grief, pity, and a strange, cold satisfaction. A satisfaction not born out of cruelty, but out of justice. At last, something made him feel even a fraction of the pain he had caused. Why did she do this? He choked, lifting his head. Lily approached slowly, her small hand tightening around her teddy bear. She looked at Daniel with wide, confused eyes. Mom loved you, she whispered softly. She always said you were her hero. He flinched. A hero doesn't abandon the person who raised him on the day she leaves the world. A hero doesn't choose a birthday dinner over the woman who spent decades putting him first. But sometimes children become strangers in their own families long before they realize it. Daniel wiped his eyes roughly, trying to regain control. She could have talked to me. She could have told me she felt neglected. Elena inhaled sharply, so sharply it was almost a gasp. Oh, Daniel, she said quietly, your mother tried, every day, in every message you ignored, in every invitation you declined, in every holiday you skipped, she told you. You just never listened. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, because deep down he knew every missed call. Every excuse, every I'll visit next month, that became next year, every we're busy, that really meant you're not a priority, he knew. And the truth tasted sour. Daniel staggered to his feet and looked around the living room. Every object felt haunted with memory. The knitted blanket on the couch, the one I made during winter when he was a teenager and insisted he was too old for homemade things. The photo frames on the shelves, his graduation, his first promotion, Lily's kindergarten drawing of all of us smiling together, the tea set on the table, one he always mocked as old people style, never knowing I only kept it because it reminded me of the afternoon teas we shared when he was 12. This house, he whispered, walking slowly toward the mantel. It's really hers, all of it hers. No, Elena corrected softly. It was yours, too, for years, until you chose to leave it behind. He winced. As he walked, he reached out and touched a framed family photo. His fingers brushed across my face. The warmth of tears dripped onto the glass. She should have told me she was this sick, he muttered. She did. Elena stepped closer, voice gentle now. You told her you were too busy to deal with her health anxiety. You said Emily needed you more. He closed his eyes, swallowing hard. I didn't think it was this serious. She didn't think you'd ignore her, Elena replied, but people make mistakes. He nodded slowly, not in agreement, but in surrender. The lawyer arrived an hour later, carrying a black folder and a solemn expression. He sat Daniel down and went through the details. The house belonged to Lily. The savings were placed in a trust for her future education. My jewelry and personal items were designated for my nieces. The car was donated to a local caregiver center. The rest, including any remaining accounts, were willed to charity. Daniel was left with nothing. Nothing but memories, good ones he forgot, and painful ones he could no longer outrun. He stared blankly at the lawyer, unable to form words. "Your mother planned this carefully," the lawyer said gently. "She wanted her legacy to go where love still lived." Daniel's lip trembled. She didn't love me anymore." "Oh, she loved you," the lawyer replied sadly. "Too much, enough to finally let you face the consequences. She shielded you from your entire life." That was when Daniel completely broke. He collapsed to his knees, crying uncontrollably, clutching the letter to his chest as if trying to press it into his heart, or maybe trying to extract the guilt from it. Elena knelt beside him, not touching him, but not turning away either. "You can change," she whispered. "It's too late for Maria, but not for you." He didn't answer, because grief has a way of demanding silence. Lily approached him with slow, careful steps and placed her small hand on his shoulder. "Uncle Daniel," she whispered, Mom said people get lost sometimes, but they can find their way back." Daniel looked up at the little girl who inherited everything he expected to receive. Everything he thought was his right. Everything my heart had once reserved solely for him. Her eyes were kind, kinder than he deserved. He hugged her, and for a brief moment he cried into her shoulder like a child who suddenly realized he had run too far, for too long, and finally understood what it meant to be alone. From wherever I rest, I felt the world shift, not with revenge, not with triumph, but with closure. Because I didn't punish him out of hatred, I didn't leave him out of cruelty. I simply placed my love where it was cherished, not where it was taken for granted. In the quiet of eternity, I felt peace, not because he suffered, but because he finally learned the lesson I could never teach him while I was alive. Love must be fed, watered, visited, protected, or it dies long before the person does. Daniel stayed in the house for hours, crying, reflecting, regretting, and when he finally left, he didn't slam the door like he entered. He closed it gently, respectfully, as if the house itself was alive, as if I might still be listening, and maybe I was. Because for the first time in a long time, my son walked away with something I had prayed he would find. ***, humility, understanding, and the beginning of a heart capable of loving again. ***, it wasn't revenge, it wasn't punishment. It was truth, and the sweetest justice of all was that he finally saw it.